Hello. After posting the video Bible as Scientific Literature, I received some heat and I thought, what can I say that will be acceptable and correct? Something that actually will prove the point that there is something to this metaphysics. It's not just lab work and results and scientific method. Or it's just applying the scientific method in a different way. And Tesla was someone who came to mind. And to sum up Tesla, here's a quote from one of his colleagues. Suffice it to say that were we to seize and to eliminate from our industrial world the results of Mr. Tesla's work, the wheels of industry would cease to turn, our electric cars and trains would stop, our towns would be dark, our mills would be dead and idle. Yea, so far-reaching is this work that it has become the warp and woof of industry. His name marks an epoch in the advance of electrical science. From that work has sprung a revolution in the electrical art. Tesla is one of those men I can assuredly call a metaphysician. And although the opinion of the world did not matter to Tesla, according to Tesla, here's my opinion of the man through the man's own words. Now, Tesla was different. He considered the past or the present to belong to his contemporaries. He considered the future to belong to him. And this is because Tesla understood something. And that something may surprise you at what it is. That something is art. That is because art is the act of bringing disparate parts into a useful whole, a unity. And Tesla toasted the artist, and I will quote to you what he has to say. There is another feature which affords us still more satisfaction and enjoyment, and which is of still more universal interest, chiefly because of its bearing upon the welfare of mankind. Gentlemen, there is an influence which is getting strong and stronger day by day, which shows itself more and more in all the departments of human activity, and influence most fruitful and beneficial, the influence of the artist. It was a happy day for the mass of humanity when the artist felt the desire of becoming a physician, an electrician, an engineer or mechanic, or whatnot, a mathematician or a financier. For it was he who wrought all these wonders and grandeur we are witnessing. It was he who abolished that small, pedantic, narrow-grooved school teaching which made of an aspiring student a galley slave, and he who allowed freedom in the choice of subject of study according to one's pleasure and inclination, and so facilitated development. It was the artist, too, who awakened to that broad philanthropic spirit which, even in old ages, shone in the teachings of noble reformers and philosophers. That spirit which makes men in all departments and positions work not as much for any material benefit or compensation, though reason may command this also, but chiefly for the sake of success, for the pleasure there is in achieving it, and the good they might be able to do thereby to their fellow man. Through his influence, types of men are now pressing forward, impelled by a deep love for their study, men who are doing wonders in their respective branches, whose chief aim and enjoyment is the acquisition and spread of knowledge, men who look far above earthly things, whose banner is Excelsior. Gentlemen, let us honor the artist. Let us thank him. Let us drink his health. Tesla was an artist. As an artist, he was uniquely positioned to be this metaphysician, this person who was able to bring the known and the unknown together into one point, to use the laws of nature to increase the benefit of mankind, the stance, or the standing of mankind, and to do it at the same time as discovery, to say this scientific principle is not just something that governs the heavens, but it's also something that governs the earth and therefore governs humanity. And humanity can use that to benefit itself. and improve itself. All of mankind, all of creation. Tesla found many problems with his contemporaries. They lacked patience. They lacked the will to concisely work something out in their mind, to feel it work, as he called it. They got lots of money and lots of resources, and then they squandered it. He says today scientists have substituted mathematics for experiments, and they wander off through equation after equation and eventually build a structure which has no relation to reality. In fact, he says about Edison, if Edison had a needle to find in a haystack, he would proceed at once with the diligence of the bee to examine straw after straw until he found the object of his search. I was a sorry witness of such things, knowing that a little theory and calculation would have saved him 90% of his labor. He does predict, though, it is quite evident that this squandering cannot go on indefinitely, for geological investigations prove our fuel stores to be limited. So great has been the drain on them of late years that the specter of exhaustion is looming up threateningly in the distance. Tesla, he did not want material gain, although he understood it may be a natural consequence of offering solutions to the world, both in science and industry. But his aim was to serve mankind through harnessing nature. He says, my method is different. I do not rush into actual work. When I get a new idea, I start at once building it up in my imagination, and make improvements and operate the device in my mind. When I have gone so far as to embody everything in my invention, every possible improvement I can think of, and when I see no fault anywhere, I put into concrete form the final product of my brain. He says, before I put a sketch on paper, the whole idea is worked out mentally. In my mind, I change the construction, make improvements, and even operate the device. Without ever having drawn a sketch, I can give the measurements of all parts to workmen, and when completed, all these parts will fit, just as certainly as though I had made the actual drawings. It is immaterial to me whether I run my machine in my mind or test it in my shop. The inventions I have conceived in this way have always worked. In 30 years, there has not been a single exception. My first electric motor, the vacuum wireless light, my turbine engine, and many other devices have all been developed in exactly this way. That is because he believes the mind is sharper and keener in seclusion and uninterrupted solitude. No big laboratory is needed in which to think. Originality thrives in seclusion, free of outside influences beating upon us to cripple the creative mind. Be alone. That is the secret of invention. Be alone. That is when ideas are born. And although nature was Tesla's medium, it is nature's opposition to Tesla's searching that kept him going. He describes a discovery as this: like a flash of lightning, and in an instant the truth was revealed. I drew with a stick on the sand the diagrams of my motor. 1,000 secrets of nature which I might have stumbled upon accidentally I would have given for that one which I had wrestled from her against all odds and at the peril of my existence. And the interesting point of the metaphysician is that he realizes that he is everything, that there is no actual separation, and that to go beyond the looking glass is really to step into oneself, that the only thing that actually separates oneself from the other side is oneself. You are the looking glass you must step through. And this is one aspect of his metaphysical expression. And in his vocabulary, to him, that was science and religion. And he says there is no conflict between the ideal of religion and the ideal of science. But science is opposed to theological dogmas because science is founded on fact. To me, the universe is simply a great machine which never came into being and never will end. The human being is no exception to the natural order. Man, like the universe, is a machine. Nothing enters our minds or determines our actions which is not directly or indirectly a response to stimuli beating our sense organs from without. Tesla understood this, that scale All one has to do is understand that sometimes it's small, sometimes it's large, but generally speaking, it follows a pattern. And he was able to apply that. He has statements like, though free to think and act, we are held together like the stars on the firmament, with ties inseparable. These ties cannot be seen, but we can feel them. Of all the frictional resistances, the one that most retards human movement is ignorance, what Buddha called the greatest evil in the world. The friction which results from ignorance can be reduced only by the spread of knowledge and the unification of the heterogeneous elements of humanity. No effort could be better spent. This is his desire for humanity, not simply to discover and harness nature, but to live in peace. Something that greatly affected Tesla was war. And he had many writings, some of which were called The Transmission of Electrical Energy Without Wires as a Means for Furthering Peace, or Nikola Tesla Tells of Countries' War Problems, and again, A Machine to End War. Tesla was a visionary. He envisioned wireless communication. He talked of carrying a telephone in one's vest pocket. He said eventually the incandescent light bulb will be obsolete. But he also says we shall not satisfy ourselves simply with improving steam and explosive engines or inventing new batteries. We have something much better to work for, a greater task to fulfill. We have to evolve means for obtaining energy from stores which are forever inexhaustible, to perfect methods which do not imply consumption and waste of any material whatsoever. And this was his perspective. He says, before many generations pass, our machinery will be driven by a power attainable at any point of the universe. This idea is not novel. Men have been led to it long ago by instinct or reason. It has been expressed in many ways and in many places in the history of old and new. We find it in the delightful myth of Antheus, who derives power from the earth. We find it among the subtle speculations of one of your splendid mathematicians, and in many hints and statements of thinkers of the present time. Tesla knew the universe was full of energy, kinetic energy, and he called it a mere question of time before humanity attaches their machinery to the very wheelwork of nature. Among his visions was that of women in the future. Since the female mind has demonstrated a capacity for all the mental acquirements and achievements of men, and as generations ensue, that capacity will be expanded. The average woman will be as well educated as the average man, and then better educated, for the dormant faculties of her brain will be stimulated to an activity that will be all the more intense and powerful because of centuries of repose. Women will ignore precedent and startle civilization with their progress. I will close with a quote from Tesla, and he's describing his experience with the First World War. And he says, out of this war, the greatest since the beginning of history, a new world must be born, a world that would justify the sacrifices offered by humanity. This new world must be a world in which there shall be no exploitation of the weak by the strong, of the good by the evil, where there will be no humiliation of the poor by the violence of the rich, where the products of intellect, science, and art will serve society for the betterment and beautification of life, and not the individuals for achieving wealth. This new world shall not be a world of the downtrodden and humiliated, but of free men and free nations, equal in dignity and respect for man. Thank you.